Good evening, sir. You all hot and bothered?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know what to do with my life right now.
That was a wild last 3 minutes.
Oh, it was one of those things, right? Like, despite only the two shots there for a minute, the Canucks were absolutely controlling the play. Chicago was doing a really good job of making a lot of blocks, but the ending was what really counted. 2 goals on the shots 3 and 4 of the period, and suddenly the Canucks have a 2-0 lead on pretty much identical shots from two defensemen that are of equal caliber.
Yeah, do you think the pre-scout was low glove on Soderblom?
Yeah. Well, as I always say, that is like the favorite shot in the NHL these days, right? Just above the pads, just under the glove, right?
Yeah.
So where do you want to start with the ups?
Well, I mean, obviously being up 2-0 after first period is a huge up. A couple of sloppy plays that they got away with. A 2-on-1 there that Mikheyev, thank God it was Ilya Mikheyev coming back the other way. You don't have too much to worry about. She loves fighting the puck a little bit, making me a little nervous out there, but our guys are doing a good job of cleaning up the rebounds when he is fighting it and supporting him well in our end. 50-50 on the face-offs, so that's always good. Something the Canucks have been working hard on is winning more face-offs and trying to have possession of the puck more. They hemmed Chicago in really well. So I do like their puck possession play right now and the way they were able to change lines on the fly and keep it deep in their end. And now that they've kind of got the momentum ending that period, hopefully they can come out in the second and carry through with that momentum and keep on top of these Blackhawks and show that they deserve to be a playoff team if they are going to make this push to the end. These are the type of teams that you need to just be able to handle.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like we talked about, it's about showing up. And I think someone made the comment earlier, is like sweeping Chicago doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't matter who you're beating. It's if you beat a team 3 times, it's still 6 points in the standings. And historically, as we know, Canucks logic says the Canucks have a hard time against teams like Chicago. They seem to play them down to their style. And when the game started, I was like, oh no, here we go again. We're going to be playing down. Chicago had a little bit of momentum to start the game. However, then the Canucks just took things over, started playing some very smart hockey, took things over, and it's hard to score against the team when you're in your own zone for the majority of that period. Was that like the fastest moving period we've seen all year?
That was pretty quick. I think maybe there was one game in like November that went by. The period went by pretty fast, but that was probably up there with one of the fastest all year. And they just took away one of Chicago's shots, so shots are tied 4-4 now.
There you go. What are they doing with shots these days? It's wild.
The definition of a shot is weird because it's like if the opposing team directs the puck toward the net in a manner that if the goalie weren't there and the puck were to continue, it would cross the goal line. So that's why hitting a post doesn't count as a shot.
So a good example would be, let's say a goalie makes a glove save, but his arm is extended outside of the net and it wasn't going to go in the net. Even though he gloves the puck, it's not considered to be a shot.
Yes, because if the goalie just left it, it would have gone wide of the net. So even those are so those are the ones that sometimes get taken away in between periods because at the time it looks like a good shot, but then you look at the overhead shot and it's like, no way, that was like 3 feet wide.
Right.
So
Yeah. Quinn Hughes scores his 15th of the year, so he could still theoretically hit that 20 goal mark that we've talked about. Pettersson getting an assist on that, so his 26th assist. Hronek getting his 22nd assist, and Tyler Myers scoring his 5th of the season. So you could see Tyler Myers end up getting up into that, maybe even 10 goals for the year if he keeps up. Because lately, like we've talked about, Tyler Myers has been one of the highest scoring players on this team in the last 25 games, which is a little scary, but also great to see from a guy who is an all Canuck player who has fought really hard for this team all year long.
Well, and I think one thing that Marcus Pettersson has brought for Myers is allowing him to look more offensively and take more risks. Not to the extent where it makes him a liability, but it allows him to take more shots. And if the shot gets blocked, he's not the guy that's got to get back right away. Like Pettersson Marcus Pettersson reads the play really well. And so as those guys start to play a little more together, it's going to free Myers up even more. And I kind of like the makeup of our roster right now. With having DPD as a spare lefty, and pretty soon we're gonna have Höglander coming up, and he'll be a spare righty. So really good balance on the blue line here heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, you mentioned Höglander. I didn't say we are going to talk about this, but he just got named to the All-Star team in his college season, so he's in a first All-Star down there in the NCAA. Which and they just gave Chicago their shot back, so it's 5 again.
There you go. See, it's like
so funny.
And I believe, is it today or tomorrow that Boston is playing their elimination game?
I think it's tonight, but I could be wrong on that. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on that. I know it's this weekend, and so we'll be watching to see if they lose. If they lose that game, Höglander will be incoming.
But we want him to win a championship before he leaves college, so we don't want him yet.
Of course.
Yeah. Big Hog Höglander, man, he's been having one heck of a year. Going back to January the 1st, the stats just came out, and Big Hog Höglander, he leads this team in 5-on-5 points since January 1st with 10 points. How impressive is that for him to kind of retrieve that style that he had last year when he had, 20 plus goals, 5-on-5? How much does that mean for Höglander, kind of renewing the trust of the coach in him with all those 5-on-5 points?
I think it just speaks to Höglander's character in general and why he was given that 3-year extension in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
He's always proven to be the guy that works really hard, even when he is struggling offensively. Last year, we got to see a whole new version of Höglander that we had not seen yet. And then this year, the expectations were obviously extremely high. And it is almost like Höglander went through a sophomore slump, like you see some of the elite draft picks go through. Like they come in the first year, they score a bunch of goals, and then the next year they have a tough time. It's almost like Höglander was a late bloomer, and last year was his coming out party, and this year's kind of his like, oh, more people are paying attention to me because I'm now in their video rooms. Like, oh, Höglander, you got to key on Höglander. He's doing this. And so I think he was getting matched up with some tough defensive matchups early in the season, and he's learned now to play through that. And he's starting to get back to the middle of the ice, to the soft areas, to the high danger areas. And with the energy that he brings, he creates a lot of room for his line mates and space for them to get to better areas. And that's where the high danger chances for when he's on the ice 5-on-5 increase.
Yeah, that man, he just works. So he's a straight line skater. He gets in on the forecheck. He's good at jarring the puck through. And he's starting, like we talked about earlier this year. I wanted to see Höglander start playing the game a little bit more like Connor Garland, getting down low and being able to win those puck battles, despite the fact that he's one of the smallest guys in the league. And you are really starting to see him do that kind of thing, being that guy on the line who can go and dig the puck out for his line mates and then get to an open space.
For sure. And going through the heavy criticism of a coach and kind of being the guy that he keys on is tough. You know, Höglander felt early in the season he was living in the doghouse, and a lot of us felt like he was as well. But you're seeing the payoff now of how that tough love has kind of made him stronger and made him want to fight for his ice time, and he's working really hard. And I really like the player he's becoming. Obviously, I still don't see him as a top 6 forward. I see him as a very, very high third line player, high caliber third line player. Just in the modern type of third line that the NHL has, like a grinder that's going to make you pay if you make a mistake, it'll end up in the back of your net. And that's kind of what I see as Höglander's perfect makeup.
A bunch of things to cover on this next one. The suspension, obviously. Zary was suspended for 2 games for his hit on DPD. Do you think the NHL got that one right, or would you have liked to see it a little longer?
No, I think they got it right. Zary's never had any supplemental discipline in his career so far. I heard a lot of people just saying they expected one game because it was a minor penalty and things, but I had expected the 2-game suspension. I had a conversation with one of my other hockey fan friends, and I had said, it was the intent, and the fact that it wasn't a hockey play. They weren't going after each other in a puck battle. Um, it was a defenseless player who had no idea that Zary was coming, and Zary attacked the head as the principal point of contact. And I'm not surprised it was 2 games to start with, and it sent a message for a first-time offender to get a 2-game suspension, and hopefully he learns from it instead of becoming a repeat offender like we do see in the league often. And also, I think the fact that Pettersson wasn't severely injured on the play also factored into the fact that it was only 2 games. Had DPD been stretchered off or something like that, like you're probably looking at 5 to 10 for that type of targeted, what could have very easily been a match penalty on the ice, called by the refs.
Right. And speaking of DPD too, it was a little bit of a weird situation because you had mentioned that, and I hadn't heard, but DPD was dealing with a bit of illness. So Taka was saying it was actually kind of a weird process because the symptoms he was feeling could have been either concussion or flu. And then obviously a couple days after the game, it was like, okay, it's not concussion. It just ends up it's flu. And so that's probably one of the reasons why he's not in the game tonight. It's not that he's continued to be injured. It's probably just, hey, the guy's fighting someone. Let's give him another night. And with the back-to-back, who knows? Maybe you see him come in tomorrow night refreshed.
Well, I think we do see him come in tomorrow night, but the big thing right now is um, I expected him to be. I expected a lefty to come out of the lineup with Myers being good to go, just because now we have that 3 right-handed, 3 left-handed defensive makeup that really works, and it's something that the Canucks have been searching for a while, and having Mancini look like he's a pretty high level prospect, that we kind of snuck off that Miller trade is really going to help.
Yeah. And obviously Myers back in the lineup. From what I heard from him, he was saying that if it wasn't a back-to-back, there was probably a good chance he was going to play anyways. But obviously it was one of those things where the games were literally less than 24 hours apart. And so it was better for him to make sure that he got his health back before he joins. And now he's back and scoring goals like Quinn Hughes. So, and then the other injury report that we were going to quickly chat about, Demko back on the ice with the team practicing. So, and then it came out, apparently it wasn't the same injury as before. It turns out that it was, in fact, a groin injury that he was dealing with. So are you thinking you might end up even seeing Demko getting back in the lineup in the next week or two, or kind of what are your thoughts on Demko's status?
If we keep winning and we start to look more and more like we're going to secure that second wild card spot, we will see Demko for sure. Going into the playoffs with a cold Demko is probably not ideal. You'd obviously like him to get into maybe 4 or 5 games, I would think, before the end of the season. So I would expect that, given there's about 15 games left, he had a relatively full practice yesterday at UBC. I saw a video of him working out. He looked really good, looks sharp, doesn't look like he's laboring at all. So um, after this weekend, if he's in next game after Utah, I would expect him kind of to go 2-1 with Lankinen down the stretch here.
It should be interesting because obviously the Canucks are playing at home for the next 2 against Utah tomorrow and then Winnipeg on Tuesday. But then after that, they hit the road for an extended road trip. They'll be on the road for 2 full weeks, essentially. So I guess the sure sign will be, will Demko join them on that trip? Because if he does, even though we said this early in the season, he joins the team he's probably plays. He didn't end up playing on that road trip early in the season, but I think this might be different where, okay, if you're coming on the road, then there's a good chance we get you into one of these games.
Yeah, I would say that's likely the case, um, which is good. I mean, could you imagine the team being fully healthy going into the playoffs this year? That could change a lot of things, especially with a tandem of Lankinen and Demko. If you can get Demko back here take a little bit of the burnout off of Lankinen, who, you know, last game kind of looked like he was getting a little bit tired. I think it's very good that he's skating, and hopefully he can get in enough games before the playoffs to feel solid.
Linus Karlsson getting rewarded with an extension, scoring like mad. He's the leading scorer of all time for the Abbotsford Canucks now. Gets an extension, signs a one-way contract for next season. Does that tell you that they're looking to have him inserted into the lineup as a permanent fixture for the Canucks? I guess I should say the Vancouver Canucks.
I don't know. It's hard to say whether he's going to be a career AHLer, or if he's going to have a good training camp next year and be able to make that jump to the NHL level. One of the things that his game has never really translated up, and he's kind of been a late bloomer. He shows great promise in the AHL, and then when he's brought up, he doesn't get to those same areas and can't seem to get his shots through, or doesn't quite get to those dirty areas. He kind of gets out muscled in front of the net, more so than he does in the AHL. He gets a lot of his goals off of rebounds and things in front of the net, kind of that type of player. So we'll have to see what happens next year, but it could just be some solid winger depth down in the AHL. But absolutely earned contract. He's been working hard, especially given that he has fought through a couple injuries. And I hope to see him push hard for a big club job next year.
Cool. We'll get updated on the Abbey Canucks and Karlsson in the post-game show then.
Sounds good. Talk to you then.
Nothing is perfect.